Hey there, it's Vashti Sarah. Welcome back to Post Blog. If this is your first time listening, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, like button, follow button, share button, all the buttons to stay connected with the Post Blog podcast. And for those of you who this is not your first time, welcome back. Hey y'all, we are back again, and I have none other than Ariel Montgomery. And you guys, you know, she's no stranger to this podcast. The last time she was on, she was actually pregnant. This time she's on, she's holding a baby in her hand. And I'm excited to have her. This will be a 3-part episode. And she'll be talking about all things being a new mom, the birth story, and just keeping authentic to herself, even though she's a mom. So I'm just excited, bubbling up with all the energy because I've been looking forward to this episode and hearing her heart. She did post on social media. So if you follow her, you probably read about her birth story, and it is a sensitive topic for a lot of women, but I just wanted her to share her perspective and to challenge and encourage you women out there who probably have given birth before, have seen the challenges and have faced those challenges, and also women who are scared. There's many of us out there that are extremely scared to give birth because there's so much information. So Ariel, thank you so much. Introduce yourself and your baby boy and all the things.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for having me, Vashti. I really appreciate you giving people an opportunity to share their perspectives. I'm a new mom. I have a 2.5-month-old baby, so I'm definitely an expert at this point. Learning lots. And he's actually with me today.
Woohoo.
So if you hear some cooing in the background, this is motherhood in real time. Or crying or whatever. We'll see how he does, but he is with me right now. So,
yeah. And what's his name?
His name is Darius Jedediah Montgomery.
Okay.
So Darius is after my father-in-law, and then Jedediah is after my little brother, who I actually shared about in the last podcast, who passed away. So it's pretty cool because it's just a very honoring family name.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I love that a lot. I remember when reading his name, my heart definitely went out to you. And I'm like, this is a tribute to him. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And I know he was born on July 8th, 9 pounds, 4 ounces, 30 hours of labor.
Yeah. It was quite a whammy, but worth it. Worth it all. So.
Okay. So let's jump into part 1 of this. How is motherhood going for you?
Yeah. Short answer, it's going so much better than I ever imagined. Man, just absolutely incredible. I would say, pretty nervous to be a mom. I wasn't really someone who wanted to be a mom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know that surprises people, but yeah, I never, I wasn't really even in a hurry to get married. So the whole thing, marriage, children, it was very much in God's hands in my life. And I was at peace with it happening or not happening. And so when I got married, it was like, okay, this guy's going to be a great dad. And on a practical level, we should probably have kids now. So it was like a very practical decision. We went for it. And, but I never had this like crazy desire to be a mom. And it was something that I used to worry about. I thought I was kind of deficient because I didn't have that internally. And I was also scared. I got the idea somewhere along the way that I don't have that like sweet nurturing side that I've seen other women have. And it was just a comparison thing. And so I was really worried that wouldn't turn on for me and that I wouldn't know how to be super sweet and warm. And quite the opposite. It has been incredible. Just like the grace and goodness of God is so evident. It's been unreal. I love it. I love it so much. So yeah, it's been pretty amazing.
And I can tell you love it. You're posting on social media, which to me, that's not obnoxious at all. I mean, if you're annoyed by it, that's your problem.
I'm pretty obsessed.
And you should be. Babies are amazing. And I can't wait for whenever that time comes for me. But I love babies. They're so sweet and squishy and they smell great.
Yes. Oh, it's heavenly. Like, I get it now. I understand all the moms who just constantly share photos of their babies. Yep. I understand my parents only want to talk about their kids. No. Like, it all makes sense to me now. So it's pretty great.
So what have you learned so far in being a new mom?
Yeah. Well, again, I'm only 2.5 months in.
Yeah.
So I would say it's an insane amount of learning, but also I have so much to go.
Yep.
But I know other new moms will relate to some of the stuff I'm going to share. I love that question. It really made me dig it up and think about it. Man, I have learned, first of all, to slow down. I'm a pretty intense person. I'm a very hard worker. I move very fast in life, physically and just mentally. Like I move fast. And man, having this little baby, coming up on 3 months postpartum, I really have to tell myself to slow down. Now, it was easy the first couple of weeks because I was bedridden and you're kind of forced to slow down. But now, I'm like healthy again. I'm ready to move around. I want to do things. I'm feeling like social. And I want to get stuff done. And it's just a constant reminder to slow down. And sometimes I do. I just take moments in the middle of the day where I'll just pause what I'm doing. And I just sit and I stare into his face and I smile at him and I talk to him. And that is, those are some of the moments I treasure the most. So slowing down. The other thing I learned is that babies are so sensitive to their environment. And so my mood and my, like facial expressions, all of that, he senses, and he's aware of, and it affects him. And I remember it was like, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, Joe and I got into like a really tense argument in front of him. And I was super like stressed out about something and just kind of frazzled. And, it's just tense, how it is after an argument. And I remember like noticing a shift in my baby. Like he was kind of disgruntled.
Wow.
It took him a longer time to fall asleep that night. He had a hard time feeding. It was really interesting. So something it's really caused me to be more accountable for my moods, for my words, for my tone of voice, because now I have a little person who is watching me 24/7. Yep. So major accountability, but a really good thing. And then, man, I have a lot of things. I've learned to smile more.
Yeah.
Just how I hold my face through the day really matters, and he notices that. And then I'd say lastly, I have learned that I'm totally equipped for this. I'm totally called to this. And I know that lots of other moms relate to this worry or this fear, this feeling that maybe you don't have what it takes. And I pretty much immediately realized how God 100% equips mothers.
Wow.
And that doesn't mean it's easy. That doesn't mean you know all things.
Right.
It just means that you can handle it and that you're equipped for it. And I felt that right away. And even in the hard moments, I've really learned to lean into my God-given intuition and listen to the Holy Spirit and be what God has called me to be, which is his mother.
Wow.
And that's been really powerful for me.
Wow. I like that you mentioned that, because I feel like a lot of women absolutely that biggest fear is I don't want to fail. And I've heard friends say this before. I don't know if I'm cut out for this, or especially if it wasn't a planned pregnancy, that idea of I'm not equipped, I'm not ready, I'm not going to be good enough. But, God designed us as women to somewhat fall into that nature.
Yeah. Yeah. He 100% designed us to, I think the only time we think we're not equipped or really what causes us to think that is when we're comparing and when we're listening to lies from the enemy in our minds, attacking our abilities and attacking our giftings.
Yeah.
And those doubts that come into your mind about being equipped as a mom, those are not from God. It's not from God. And learning how to identify those doubts and find out where they're coming from. Like, am I comparing myself to someone else?
Yep.
Am I listening to an insecurity about myself? And then just throwing those out and saying, nope, I'm called to this. This child literally grew inside of my body.
Yeah.
He is part of my body. Like, I was made to be this child's mother, and this child was made to be my child.
Yep.
And that is how God designed it. And he will then equip you to take care of your baby.
Yeah.
It's been really empowering for me to really understand that and walk in that. Yeah.
So would you say that motherhood is everything you expected, or it's like just throw your expectations out the door? It's going to be completely different than what you're expecting it should be.
Yeah. That is also a really great question. It is not what I expected. Again, I would say, and it sounds so terrible to say this, but I'm just going to be honest per usual. When I thought of motherhood, I thought, man, I'm going to feel stifled. I'm going to feel stuck. I'm going to feel trapped. Mm-hmm. Man, yeah, it really does sound terrible to say, but it's true. And I thought I was going to feel that. I thought I was going to feel, just stuck. Mm-hmm. And I thought I wasn't going to feel all the feelings that other moms seem to feel. Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely not the case. I feel made for this. Yeah. There's nothing better than this. And I genuinely feel that throughout my day. Yeah. Every struggle, the sleep, the, 24/7 caretaking, the diaper changing, all of it is worth it. Mm. And I've had that mindset going into it, and I'm seeing that. And when you have this little baby in front of you, all those fears that you had in pregnancy and before, you're like, wow, it almost seems silly, and that's been my experience. The other thing that I think this kind of goes along the lines of like what I've learned. Mm-hmm. So my husband and I talked about like what our approach would be as a couple and as a team with the baby. Mm-hmm. And I think that what I've learned and what I'm seeing is that teamwork with him looks different than I expected. And that's become a really good thing, but it's definitely different than what I expected. Our approach, and this is more relevant to moms who are staying home mm-hmm. or are able to stay home. We were like, we'll take turns at night and, he'll help with the night changes or help with night feeding and all these different things. And I have learned that it's not always going to feel fair when it comes to like the early days parenting, mm-hmm. because the baby, and mommy, that's a 24/7 dynamic. Yeah. And dads are so wonderful, and Joe is useful, and he's all about being a partner. But I've kind of just learned to not complain, not worry about fairness, and just do what needs to be done, if that makes any sense. And for us, part of that dynamic has been, I am the one who takes care of the baby at night and all night, and Joe gets up and goes to the office every day. And me not getting sleep right now, I don't look at that as unfair. I look at that as my joy, and I look at that as the role that I'm playing right now. And Joe having a clear head for the office the next day is what he needs to do. So it's been a really cool dynamic figuring that out. And every couple and every marriage has to kind of sort out what works best for them. But that's definitely been different than what I expected, but good. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to what you mentioned. It's a mindset thing, because I have heard of different women, express, I feel stuck. I've lost myself. I don't know who I am. And so would you say it is 100% a mindset thing? You have to choose to view being a mom and being a full-time, my child needs me 24/7 as it's not an unfair thing. This is a joy. You get to choose to view it as a joy. Mm.
Yeah, man, Vashi. And I think we'll talk about that more later, but yes, 100%. I was even just talking about that with my husband this morning. Mm-hmm. So much of life is your mindset.
Wow.
And so much of life is a choice. Yep. And I have seen that 100% with parenting. And so, yes, you can be honest about the hard things in life.
Yep.
And you can talk about those honestly.
Yeah.
But there's that fine line where you're just complaining and where you're not choosing gratefulness and thankfulness.
Yep.
And the verse that has been going through my head literally all day, actually every day. And I didn't really look this verse up. It's a verse I used to know that just came to me when I had the baby. It's Philippians 2:14. And let me pull it up. It starts with do everything. I mean, really, this is the only part you need to know.
Yep.
Do everything without complaining and arguing. That's the verse. That's actually the whole verse. Do everything without complaining and arguing. And there's like a whole passage in Philippians where he talks about like, you know, you are light and the world needs to see a difference in you, and rejoice and be grateful. And you're pouring out your life as an offering to God, which I think 100% goes with motherhood. But all that to say, the verse that goes through my head all day is do everything without complaining or arguing. And what I've learned with this whole mom experience and what I have decided in advance is that I will approach being a mom with that attitude.
Wow.
And not complaining and not arguing. And that goes with that ties into your marriage. And this is not a marriage podcast, but it has a big part of new moms, you know, it's become culturally acceptable to gripe and to complain about motherhood. And it's almost like a social thing that we do. Like, you know, like we feel like we have to say, I didn't sleep last night, or like we feel like we have to talk about negative things. And it's kind of this weird social thing. And, you know, I was guilty of that in my pregnancy. I complained a ton in my pregnancy. And we need to acknowledge hard things. I think that's important. I think that's honest. But when we're complaining, I think just take a breath and realize, like, first of all, how many women pray for this opportunity?
Wow.
Pray to be mamas.
Yep.
Pray to have what you have.
Yep.
How many people do not have what you have and wish they had what you had? And secondly, you as a mom, you will find yourself feeling more joy and more fulfillment in your everyday life if you watch what you say and learn how to speak life over being a mom. And so I've just learned, like, I do not accept or listen to negative narratives about motherhood. I just don't.
Yeah.
I do not let people make negative jokes about it to me.
Yeah.
Not because I'm a sensitive Sally, but because this is my approach in life.
Yep.
And this is my calling, and this is a gift from God.
Yeah.
And I just don't allow it. And I think that is like, I want to spread that, you know, around other moms. Like, man, what is beautiful about this? What is good about this?
Yeah.
And then there's a reason why we're told not to complain and not to argue. And so to kind of tie it all back, I think the whole teamwork with your partner, listen, like, I think I can say this straight up to stay-at-home moms, like, let your husband get his sleep so that he can have a clear head when he goes to his office the next day or whatever his job is.
Yeah.
And be grateful that, yes, it's not that you're not working all day. Like, I am working. This is hard work. And I get why women feel like that's overlooked. Yeah, you are working, but you're also, like, when you're feeding him, you can stare at the wall. So stare at the wall. You don't have to use your brain. And be a little foggy for however long the season is. And I guess, like, deal with it with a good attitude, and you'll have a lot more joy. So that's what I've learned. That's what I'm learning. And I want to keep growing in that.
And I think the reason why so many of us women have that mindset is because of the culture that says, you know, we should be equal. And if I do this much, then you have to do this much too. When
50-50.
Yeah. And I'm so not for that type of culture that we're pushing out there, because as a woman, you were designed to be a nurturer. You were designed to take care of your child, and the man is the provider, and he provides and nurtures in a different type of way. But in this early stage of life, that child needs its mama, you know?
Needs mom.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, and like that what you said in itself is sensitive, because people have different situations.
Absolutely.
People have different financial situations. And so agreed. And I think it's important for people who listen to understand that we're talking to the stay-at-home mom for this particular topic. We're talking to the people who financially can do that. And if you can do it, like, be grateful that your
Yes.
husband got sleep last night and is working.
Yeah.
And thank him and praise him for that. And the more you're concerned and obsessed with fairness in your marriage and in parenting, the
Oof.
less happy you will be.
Yes.
And it's like, if you're a servant of Christ, then you believe, and Jesus talks about it, like, whoever loses his life will find it.
Yep.
Right. And that's like big picture. Losing yourself, you find happiness and joy and peace
Yeah.
in Christ. And that's parenting. Like, let it go. It's not going to be fair. It's not going to always feel fair. You're not always going to get recognized. You're not always going to get acknowledged.
Yeah.
But you're serving the Lord first of all. And if you walk in gratefulness, you're going to have this amazing sense of fulfillment and purpose. And I guess gratefulness really helps, and thanking your husband, and this is the season you're in. And also, it's a season, like, it's not forever.
Absolutely.
And roll with it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you for clarifying
it's a hard
that,
topic.
because I also don't want for this ever to come across as insensitive to women who aren't or don't have the option to,
Right.
have
Stay
their husband,
home.
or stay at home. Exactly. If that's not your current situation, that doesn't make you a horrible mom for not being able to stay at home. Every person's circumstance is extremely different, and you work with what you got, You
work with what you got.
Yep.
And yes, and that, I think that the overarching concept of gratefulness and life not being fair, that applies to all the situations, and it all comes back to your mindset.
Yep.
And you as a mama, like, what is your mindset in the season? And the more content and grateful you are, the better it is. So that's what I've been seeing.
Okay. So
myself.
What would you say has been your biggest challenge being a new mom?
Well, right now it's that I'm trying to make a podcast and I'm super distracted. I hope that you can't tell that or that anyone can tell that, but I'm speaking from my heart, but I definitely have a little kid right now and that I'm breastfeeding.
Yep.
But it's biggest challenge. I think this challenge began for me in pregnancy, because my pregnancy was horrible.
Okay.
I was very, very sick, like most of the pregnancy. And I had like bouts where I wasn't sick. But anyway, I am a go-getter. I am very passionate about the jobs that I've had, what I feel called to, ministry, all the different things that I've been involved in. And when I got pregnant and was so sick, I couldn't work. It was incredibly humbling for me. So I'd say, first of all, just like the humbling experience of, when you're an early mom, and maybe it's, maybe for a lot of moms, they go back to work after, a few months. So if that's you still went through the first few weeks where you're like a milk machine 24/7, or bottle feeding 24/7, whatever that is for you, you are doing it 24/7. You're taking care of this little baby, and you're not, putting on your work clothes and going to the office or going to meetings or whatever the heck that was for you. And so that has been very humbling for me. And I would say the biggest struggle has also just been like the lack of routine. I'm kind of a control freak.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, my old calendars, I had my day scheduled out hour by hour.
Wow.
Like truly. I had my downtime scheduled. I had my workout scheduled. I had my eatings. I mean, I was like I like to know what I'm doing that day.
Yeah.
And with being a new mom, you really don't have that option. Like, he wants to eat at such and such a time, you got to feed him, like, it's kind of hard. And so that's been like kind of an identity struggle too. Like, you have to really let go of control and the things that made you feel like you had your life together. And it's just like been difficult. So I'd say that's the biggest challenge, just like lack of routine, lack of control, and just like being okay with that.
Yeah. So I probably know what your answer is to this, but what's your biggest blessing?
Oh, what do you think my answer is?
Your baby.
Well, yeah, that's pretty easy. It's his hair. He has great hair. That's been the best part. No, he's so much more than the hair. Yep, the baby. I mean, obviously the baby.
Yeah.
And I would say how it feels, like the peace and the joy that I felt was almost shocking. Like it's, you can't describe it. Like, and I think every new parent like goes through this where it's like, how do you explain this? You know, it's like indescribable.
Yeah.
The peace and the joy that both my husband and I feel together, and just like the sense of calling. Oh my gosh, has been unreal and like so beautiful. It's something that we feel every single day, that we talk about every day.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing. So yeah, you just can't top it. I don't know. Can't top it. It's pretty amazing.
Hey, well, that's more than enough of an answer. And yeah, you just can't top it. So that will complete or conclude part 1 of New Mom Life. Join us next time for part 2, where we're going to hear about the birth story. And I highly encourage you guys to tune into that episode. A ton of content, a ton of the background and the backstory of what Ariel experienced, and just a challenge and encouragement to new moms, the delivery, childbirth, and all the childbearing things. So yeah, join us next time. That's it for today, guys. Thank you for joining me on Post Blog. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like button, follow button, share button, all the buttons to stay connected on the Post Blog podcast. Same time, same place next week. I love y'all. But remember, God loves you most.